I went no contact with my dad after he lied about surgery to ditch my wedding. Then my brother said I was the problem for not feeling sorry for him. I'm a 35-year-old woman, and honestly, I've rewritten this story more times than I can count. It's tough trying to put all my emotions into words, so bear with me, it's going to be a long one. For most of my adult life, I kept my father at a distance. After my parents went through a nasty divorce when I turned 18, I barely stayed in touch. By the time I was 20, he had already moved on and started dating his current girlfriend, Debbie. I won't get too deep into the details, but growing up with him was rough. He was both physically and emotionally abusive until I finally left home at 20. Then the pandemic hit. With everything going on in the world, he started reaching out more. I was in my 30s by then and felt a little more open to giving him a chance. So, we began talking very slowly, and always with boundaries I set in stone. I made it clear which topics were off limits. Sometimes he'd respect that. Other times, he'd blow up, start yelling, and I'd have to put him in timeout again. Eventually, he'd cool off and act civil for a while. When I met my husband, Victor, something shifted. My dad actually seemed happy for me. He made an effort to get to know Victor over the phone and sounded genuinely thrilled when I moved in with him. And then, shockingly, he apologized. For the first time in my life, he said sorry for everything. For treating me like garbage, for favoring my siblings, for all the awful things he'd done. I broke down crying. It was the first time I felt seen by him. For once, I felt like he understood how much he hurt me. That moment gave me hope, and I started to believe we could have a real relationship again. When I got engaged, he was over the moon. He asked if he could walk me down the aisle. I told him no, not because I was trying to hurt him, but because it just didn't feel right. I wasn't having a traditional bridal party anyway, no bridesmaids or groomsmen, and walking alone just felt symbolic to me. My family had never really shown up for me, so it made sense to take that step on my own, just like I'd done with everything else in adulthood. He seemed a little hurt but said he understood. I told him we could share a father-daughter dance instead, and he agreed to that. I also mentioned that people on my mom's side were looking forward to seeing him again. It had been years. At that point, he and my mom were on cordial terms, so I figured everything would go smoothly. He even arranged a dinner and invited Victor and me over. That dinner went surprisingly well, and I was starting to feel really hopeful about the future. We even planned a big trip so he could meet Victor's parents. It was a big deal because it meant traveling out of state. We coordinated everything, and it was all set until a week before the meeting. That's when he suddenly wanted to cancel. He told me Debbie was having exploratory surgery and wouldn't be well enough in time. I reminded him we'd already made all the plans, but told him okay, and asked if we could at least drive by so he could say a quick hello from outside. Victor's dad, who's in his 70s, was also about to undergo a serious operation, so this meeting was important. He reluctantly agreed. But when we pulled up, Debbie came outside with him, walking around just fine. No visible signs of surgery or recovery. No bandages. She seemed perfectly okay. I thought it was strange, but didn't say anything. They said hello, made small talk, and that was it. After that, the excuses kept rolling in. Every time we scheduled something, he'd cancel last minute. His friend's car broke down and he needed to help. Debbie had yet another exploratory surgery. She had doctor's appointments he supposedly just learned about. The car needed work. Same old stories, some were even recycled from when I was a kid. I knew he was lying. His go-to excuse had always been medical issues. He said he wanted to do something for my birthday that summer, but after rescheduling 3 times, I told him to forget it. I figured I'd just see him at the wedding. That's when the old behaviors started coming back. He'd call drunk, pick fights, but still acted like he was looking forward to the wedding. He mentioned wanting to make a little vacation out of it with Debbie. Then, 3 weeks before the big day, Debbie called me. They share a phone, so I didn't think much of it until she launched into this weird tirade, demanding to know why I didn't tell people that the hotel's parking garage charged $25 a day. I was stunned. First off, I had no idea they didn't comp parking. Second, we live near the venue. Victor and I were planning to just go home after the wedding. And it's a major city, $25 a day is actually not bad. Plus, why was she calling me about this? No one else had complained. I told her I didn't know about the parking fees, and that $25 was reasonable. I even suggested they didn't need to stay at the hotel at all, since they only lived an hour away and the venue had free parking. She hung up on me. Our wedding was set for a Sunday in early November. That Tuesday, I missed a call from my dad. I was at a doctor's appointment after being in the hospital the day before. The stress of everything had triggered an old health issue. Later, I got a text from him saying they weren't coming to the wedding. Debbie was apparently having another exploratory surgery, and they couldn't make it. But he'd still send a card. At that point, I knew he was lying. Again. Just like he had all year. I texted back, pleading with him to come even for just an hour. I reminded him I was his daughter, and this was the most important day of my life. Debbie would be okay for a little while. Surely someone else could stay with her for a bit. I wasn't asking much. He replied, basically saying this wasn't a competition of who mattered more. He sounded offended that I even asked. I couldn't take it. I was sobbing and gave my phone to Victor. I couldn't even find the words to respond. Victor wrote a message on my behalf, polite but firm. He showed it to me first, and I approved it. It said that if my father couldn't show up for me on the most meaningful day of my life, then we were done. No more contact. Ever. Even my mom, who has her own complicated history with him, called him to scream about what he was doing. She knew his games and lies too, and called him out. His response? Don't worry, she'll still get a card. I kept him unblocked until mid-morning on my wedding day. Not a single call. No text. Nothing. I was heartbroken. He gave me hope that maybe, finally, he'd be there for me, and then crushed it without hesitation. So I blocked him. The wedding itself? It was perfect. Everything we dreamed of. I had a brief moment of sadness before walking down the aisle when some guests asked about my dad, not knowing the story. But aside from that, he never crossed my mind. It wasn't until after Thanksgiving that I checked my blocked messages. He hadn't sent anything on the wedding day. Not even a good luck. But he did send one message on Thanksgiving. And all it said was, in essence, Debbie comes first. You should understand that. I don't. After everything, I told my brother, who still stays in touch with our dad, that as far as I'm concerned, our father is dead to me. And if he ever asks, I told him to pass that along. My brother seems to believe that Debbie is the one keeping our dad from reconnecting with us, but honestly? I don't care. My dad made his choice. Now he gets to deal with the fallout. Apparently, he even asked my brother how much drama he stirred up by not showing up to the wedding. My brother told him it caused a big wave, but he didn't want to talk about it. I made a firm decision. My dad is no longer a part of my life. I'm flooded with emotions: anger, grief, sadness, but if I'm being honest, what I mostly feel is relief. Still, there are moments where I find myself checking my blocked messages. Deep down, there's this nagging part of me that just wants to know if he realizes how much he hurt me or if he even cares. Some days, I miss the idea of having a dad. And then I question myself. Am I doing the right thing cutting him off like this? Is it fair to erase him from my life forever? I don't know. What I do know is that we never got that wedding card he said he'd send. But we did get a Happy Easter text. Go figure. Someone online commented that maybe he never actually intended to come to the wedding at all. And honestly, that might be true. As painful as it is to admit, I think you're probably right. Some part of me wants to believe that maybe he was going to come at some point, but in the end, I think backing out last minute was the plan all along. I'll never know for sure. But reading those kind and supportive comments from strangers online, it's helped more than I can say. It's helped me find peace with the choice I made. Someone else asked if he struggles with addiction, and yeah, he does. Both he and my mom were alcoholics when I was growing up. The real kicker? When he first got with Debbie, back when I was still living at home, he had custody of us after the divorce. I was old enough to leave, but I couldn't bring myself to abandon my little brother. That's another story for another time. One day, I found some white powder on the garage table. I didn't think much of it. I naively thought it was salt and wiped it up. Later on, Debbie and my dad got into a fight, and she came into my room afterward. She apologized for dragging him back into drugs. She admitted that she was the one who got him hooked on cocaine and pills after his first heart attack. They claimed they eventually quit the hard stuff and stuck to alcohol. Another comment stood out to me. It warned that if I ever have a child, my dad might come crawling back, pretending he's a changed man, promising a fresh start. And when that happens, I should ask myself why I'd let any child of mine go through the pain and rejection I lived through. That comment hit me hard. Because that's exactly what Victor's afraid of too. Victor had a long, serious talk with me about it. He reminded me of all the trauma from my childhood and said he knows I'd never want to put our future kids through the same thing. And he's right. It breaks my heart to think my children will never know their grandfather, but I know in my soul that this is the right call. My niece met our father once at her baptism and never again. She asks my sister questions sometimes, but my sister just tells her that he wasn't a very nice person. Now for a bit of an update, though honestly, it's more of a development than anything new. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented. Just knowing people took time out of their day to offer support truly meant the world to me. Your words gave me strength and helped me stick to my decision. After that post, Victor and I sat down and had another really good talk. He echoed everything the commenters said. I even thought about permanently deleting my dad's number, but I read that doing so would automatically unblock him, which I didn't want. As I kept reading the comments and reflecting, I started asking myself why I ever doubted my decision to cut him off. But I think I know the answer now. My brother, Devin, he's 30, is incredibly impressionable. He still lives with our mom, and while living with her can be rough, things had been going okay for them recently. Devin means a lot to me. After our parents split, I gave up school and any kind of career to take care of him. I worked 3 jobs for years to help raise him alongside our dad. But Devin never really learned to be independent, and that's largely because my dad always babied him. He was the golden child, the only boy, and got special treatment. Some of my mom's family recently tried to help Devin get on his feet. They pitched in to move him to a warmer state, where he could live with some cousins. They even flew him out to check the place out. It sounded promising. But when he got back home, he went straight to our dad's and stayed there for 4 days. I had no idea. When I called Devin a few days later, he told me he was excited about the move. I told him I was really happy for him, but also sad I was going to miss having him close. And then he hit me with something that floored me. He said, "Well, I'm the only one in the family who still talks to Dad, so imagine how he feels." I was stunned. I asked, "Wait, what did you just say?" He got irritated and snapped back, saying, "When I move, Dad's really not going to have anyone. And you should feel bad about that." He doesn't understand how you can still be mad at him after all this time. That was the moment everything came flooding back, the guilt, the doubt, all the emotional weight I thought I'd finally let go of. And then came the anger. Because that's exactly what my dad always does. That's how my family works. He plays the victim, turns everyone against me, and somehow I end up being the bad guy for setting boundaries. But I took a deep breath and calmly told Devin, Dad made his choice. I was open to rebuilding things with him, and he chose not to be a father to me. He didn't come to my wedding. That was on him, not Debbie, not anyone else. He's a grown man and he made that decision. Devin didn't have anything to say after that. He rushed me off the phone and barely said goodbye. I managed to say love you, but the line was already dead. Later, I told Victor what Devin had said. He was furious. He wished I had taken the call while he was around so he could have jumped in and spoken to Devin directly. I told him my dad had brainwashed Devin and that he wasn't usually like this. But Victor reminded me that Devin isn't a kid anymore. He's a grown man, and I shouldn't keep excusing him for the things he says or does. That phone call really shook me. I felt off afterward, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day, I texted Devin. He was planning to move in early June, and I asked if he could stop by before he left, especially since he'd soon be a plane ride away, not just a drive. He told me he'd come mid-May for our annual visit like always. But then, about a week before that visit was supposed to happen, I found out from my mom that Devin had texted her saying he was moving in 4 days. He was planning a multi-day drive to the new state and hadn't said a word to me. He lied. He wasn't planning to see me before leaving at all. Victor was speechless. Just said he was incredibly disappointed in my brother. Devin did end up calling me the day before he left. He sounded upbeat, cheerful even. Opened the call with a chipper "Hey, what's up?" And all I could say was, honestly, "I'm a little hurt and disappointed in you right now." So I said to my brother, "I'm guessing you're calling just to tell me you're leaving tomorrow and didn't even think to say goodbye." He insisted that he had told me, but when I gently pointed out that he hadn't, he snapped. He started yelling, accusing me of always playing the victim. He asked why I wasn't just happy for him, and how dare I make him feel guilty, almost word for word the kind of stuff our dad would say. I told him, "Look, I'm really happy you're getting a fresh start. I think it's great that you're moving. I'm just hurt you waited until 12 hours before you leave to even tell me, and that you don't want to stop to say goodbye even though your route literally takes you within 20 minutes of my house." I was crying by then. He eventually apologized for not telling me sooner. I offered to wake up at whatever time he needed, just so I could give him a hug before he left. But he turned it down. Said he'd be back eventually. Victor was listening the whole time and was furious at the way my brother was speaking to me. He's just so fed up and really hopes my brother starts acting more like an adult in this new chapter of his life. It's been a few months since he moved. I haven't heard a word from my dad. My brother and I talk once in a while, especially during the first month after the move. He was having a tough time finding a full-time job but was doing everything he could to at least keep up with rent. Lately, he's been busy, so it's been a while since we've spoken. On my birthday, he texted me a quick happy birthday and said he'd call later. At 11:45 p.m., he finally rang. I was in the middle of a video game with some friends, but we chatted briefly. I asked if he was free the next night, and he said yes. So I told him I'd call him back then for a proper catch-up. He hung up. And when I called the next day, he didn't answer. I haven't tried calling since. Just for the sake of this post, I checked, still no messages from my father. Not since the Happy Easter one. Honestly, since the divorce, he's always forgotten my birthday anyway. I'm just at a loss. I don't know what I did wrong to be treated like this. Did I deserve it because I won't forgive my dad? I don't know. I'm just sitting here, heavy-hearted. All I've ever wanted was for my family to love me, and right now, I feel so lost. If anyone reading this has advice, I only ask that you be gentle. I'm carrying a lot right now. Update, February 19, 2025. A few people asked for another update, so here's what's happened since. It's not a piping hot pot of drama, but there's definitely some tea just served in a chipped little teacup made of unresolved issues. First of all, thank you to everyone who left kind comments. Your support has meant everything to me. You made me feel seen, and you've helped keep me strong. Now, as for my brother, back in early October, he called me and said he wasn't doing well in the new state. It felt like he was maybe testing the waters to see if Victor and I would take him in, just so he wouldn't have to go back to our mom's house. But I've been down that road before. I told him that if he really wanted to come back, he needed to talk to our mom and work something out with her. I'm done trying to fix everything for him. He promised he'd be back for Christmas. Surprise, surprise, it didn't happen. I haven't heard from him since, aside from a few group holiday texts. And you know what? I refused to be the one reaching out this time. He broke every promise he made to me, and I've finally gotten to a place where I'm strong enough to let him go. Through my mom, I later found out he got a better job and decided to stay in that state. I guess once I wasn't useful anymore, there was no need to call. Then, just yesterday, I found out he lost that job because his ancient car finally broke down for good. It was over 20 years old, and he never took care of it. My mom used to stay on him to get oil changes and basic maintenance, but without her there, he just let it go until it died. Now, either my uncle will step in and help him with a new car, or he'll try to move back. If he does, I'd bet money he'll try to live with our dad. And if that happens, I'm almost certain the two of them will join forces and try to manipulate me into forgiving them. I can already see it coming. As for my father, yeah, he's been trying to reach out. I get texts from him on every holiday, saying how much he loves me and wishes Victor and me the best. I've also been getting calls and blank voicemails from random numbers. My sister even met up with him recently, first time in years, because her daughter wanted to meet her grandpa. During their visit, he tried once again to justify why he didn't come to my wedding. My sister shut him down. Told him there was no excuse. Said he should have at least made it to the ceremony. She stood her ground, and while she and I aren't exactly close, I appreciated her saying what I couldn't. She told me he behaved himself, though. I'd been doing really well about not checking his messages, but once in a while, curiosity gets the best of me. Victor gets upset when I do. He doesn't want me getting pulled back into their nonsense. He's still planning to confront my brother next time we see him. And here's the hard part, I feel myself starting to soften. The anger isn't as sharp as it used to be. But I'm holding the line. I remind myself that to him, I only matter when it's convenient. And that's not what a real father does. Still, I'm just a daughter who wants her dad. And I'm trying so hard not to fall into that emotional trap again. Truthfully, I've been feeling really lonely lately. After the wedding, most of my friends vanished. I reach out to check on them, and all I get is a one-word reply. It stings. I've been trying to make new friends, but it's been tough. My days are mostly spent working from home on our small business, playing games alone or with Victor. I love my husband, but sometimes I just crave a girl's day. My confidence has taken a major hit. I don't like what I see in the mirror anymore. Victor and I have been trying for a baby, but so far, nothing. That's been rough too. It's hit my mental health hard. But there is one bright spot, I'm starting therapy next month. And honestly, I'm excited. Finally getting help feels like a step in the right direction. So yeah, my story isn't over yet. But if anything big happens, I promise I'll come back and let you waffles know.